Monday. All right, well, I'm joined now by Kristen Beasley. She's with the Sheltering Arms Concussion Program. We're here to talk about concussions, which is something that really affects all of us in some way usually. So the big question is, how do you know if someone has a concussion?
That's a really good question. It's hard to tell because you don't have to lose consciousness to get a concussion. You don't have to start throwing up. You know, those are kind of the common misconceptions. So when someone's had an impact to either their head or their body, they don't even have to hit their head, it can result in things like dizziness and headaches and just not really quite feeling right about yourself. And so, you know, it's up to the person to kind of identify some of those things, or their caregivers, their parents or loved ones, to recognize that something may be off about that person and to be able to kind of identify those symptoms as something is different to then help them get the treatment that they need.
So you don't even have to hit your head to get a concussion?
You do not have to hit your head. An impact even enough to the body to allow your head and body to move, so the brain to move within the skull, is enough to cause a concussion.
Wow, I had no idea. Okay, so I think people think, you know, just contact sports. That's probably not the only place you can get one then.
No, absolutely not. Car accidents is a big place. General falls. I got one hitting my head on a car. So, you know, it really can happen at any time. And it doesn't always even have to be that significant of an impact. I have a lot of patients tell me, I never even hit my head that hard. And it really doesn't matter. It's enough that the chemistry in the brain ends up being altered that results in these symptoms.
I think a lot of times some of us are like, oh, do I really want to pay that extra copay or go do this? So how do you know the difference between a bump on the head and a concussion where you really need to go get help?
It's really when the symptoms continue to persist. If you hit your head, yes, more than likely it's going to hurt. But if you start having some of that dizziness as well, the blurry vision, just kind of fogginess where you just don't kind of feel right and it continues to persist, difficulty sleeping, those are definitely symptoms that are worth getting checked out and seeing if you need treatment for those.
And we probably have time for one more question, so very quickly, tell me how you all treat them and how long the recovery time is.
So the recovery time is very independent of each individual person, but the biggest thing is we treat in is that we look at the eye movements, vestibular, oculomotor, address the dizziness, and the other thing people forget is that the neck can often be involved. If you hit your head or get hit hard enough to get a concussion, often there can be an upper cervical issue that we need to address to help work on. And the treatment time and the recovery time has really changed. Most people will feel better within about 10 to 14 days. However, when we look at recovery, you're really looking at 26 to 28 days on average.
Okay, some good advice. Thank you so much for being with us. And we are back in just a moment.